It took me nearly a year to save up for my son's dream bike. Not just any bike. This was the kind he'd clip out of magazines and tape to his bedroom wall. The kind he'd ramble about after school with stars in his eyes. The kind he'd spend hours watching YouTube reviews for, comparing gears and brakes like a kid studying for the bar exam. It had matte black paint, bright red trim, hydraulic disc brakes, and a frame so light it felt like holding a feather. I'm not exaggerating when I say he cried when he saw it. Real tears, the kind that make every hour of overtime, every packed lunch instead of takeout, every skipped coffee shop visit worth it. His name is Lucas. He's 9, and he's a good kid. A kind kid. The kind who says thank you before he even opens the box. The kind of kid who deserves good things. My name's Adrian. I'm 36. Single dad since Lucas was 3. His mom and I split on decent enough terms. She's in Oregon now, and we share custody across states, but Lucas lives with me most of the year. My side of the family is complicated. Let's just say they see me as the sensitive one. The one who never quite lived up to my older brother Kyle's standards of masculinity. Kyle's 39, football coach at our old high school, loud in every room he walks into. You know the type. Barbecue dad energy, except without the warm heart to match. He has twin boys, Jack and Tyler, both 7, and a daughter, Macy, who's 5. His wife, Dana, is sweet in that passive-aggressive bless-your-heart kind of way. And my mom? Well, she's the glue that holds all the dysfunction together. A retired kindergarten teacher with a permanent smile and a bottomless bag of excuses for her favorite child. It started with a comment. That's how things like this always begin, right? With something small enough that you almost let it go. We were all at my mom's house for her birthday, potluck style, backyard picnic, kids running wild in the grass. I had Lucas's bike locked in the back of my SUV. I wasn't planning to bring it out. Not yet. I wanted him to enjoy it at home without chaos around, without his cousins begging for a turn or Kyle making some crack about spoiling him. But Lucas, being Lucas, couldn't help but bring it up. He was beaming. Dad got me the Phantom 700, he told the twins, practically bouncing. It has Shimano gear sets and dual suspension forks. Kyle snorted like he'd just heard a joke. Shimano, huh? What? You win the lottery or something? I smiled, shrugged. Saved up for it. Been planning it for a while. Man, he said, shaking his head. You always did have a thing for wasting money. I laughed it off. I shouldn't have, but I did. Because you pick your battles in families like mine. You learn early that challenging Kyle just makes everything worse. And honestly, I was too happy watching Lucas glow to let Kyle ruin it. But then Tyler chimed in. Can we ride it? Lucas looked at me with that hopeful look kids get, the one that says I want to share, but also please don't let anything happen to it. I stepped in gently. Not today, bud. It's a new bike. Lucas hasn't even had his first ride yet. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. A few hours later, while I was helping Mom carry cake inside, I noticed Lucas wasn't in the backyard anymore. I asked Dana where he went, and she waved toward the front of the house. I think he's showing the boys that fancy bike. My stomach dropped. I bolted out the front door, and that's when I saw it. The bike was on the driveway, surrounded by all 3 of Kyle's kids. Tyler had a plastic baseball bat. Jack had one too. Macy was jumping up and down like it was a carnival game. Lucas stood frozen a few feet away, hands clenched into tiny fists, mouth trembling, eyes wide and glassy. And the sound of metal getting dented. Really dented. It's one of those noises you don't forget. Whack, whack, crack. I ran. Not walked. Not shouted. I ran toward them, my heart punching against my ribs like it was trying to escape my chest. What the stop? I shouted, yanking the bats from their hands like they were fire. What do you think you're doing? Lucas burst into tears. Jack looked at me and said, Tyler said it would bounce. Tyler smirked, not even sorry. It's just a bike. I wheeled around, scanning for Kyle. He was leaning against his truck, arms crossed, sipping from a red Solo cup like he was watching the evening news. You saw this? I asked, holding up the bat like Exhibit A. He shrugged. They're kids, Adrian. You can't freak out every time someone touches your precious toys. That wasn't a toy. That was a $700 bike I spent all year saving for. You bought a 9-year-old a $700 bike? He said, laughing like that was the funniest part. Well, that's your first mistake. I looked at my mom, who had come out to see what the shouting was about. She glanced at the bike, now lying on its side, the front wheel warped like a bad dream, and then back at me with a sigh. They didn't mean to, honey, she said. Boys will be boys. My jaw clenched so tight I thought I might crack a molar. Lucas told them not to touch it, I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. I told them not to touch it. You all heard me. Kyle walked closer, gave the bike a lazy once-over. You should have bought something cheaper, or at least taught the kid to keep it inside. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically. It was more like a wire twisting, slowly, until it couldn't take the pressure anymore. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just looked down at my son, still crying softly, and whispered, "Let's go." Lucas sniffled. But the bike. I know, buddy, I said. We're not done yet. I took his hand, unlocked the SUV, and drove off without another word. No goodbye? No, thanks for the cake. I didn't even look in the rearview mirror. But 2 days later, I came back, and I didn't come empty-handed. The funny thing about betrayal is how quiet it is when it finally settles in. You'd think it would hit you like a slap or an explosion. But no. When I walked out of my mom's house that day with Lucas, watching his knuckles white around the handle of what was left of his dream bike, there wasn't an explosion. There was just silence. Silence in the car, silence in my gut, silence in that aching spot behind my eyes. I didn't even play the radio. We got home, and I parked the SUV in the driveway. Lucas didn't get out right away. He just stared at the floor of the car, his small hands still trembling. Can we fix it? He asked, voice cracking. I didn't have the heart to lie. I'll see what I can do. I carried the bike inside like it was a broken limb. It wasn't just scratched, it was wrecked. The derailleur was bent in, the chain was twisted and half off the gear, the front wheel was completely warped. Even the seat was cracked. Those weren't accidents. That wasn't just playing rough. They'd smashed it. On purpose. Laughing. And Kyle just stood there, letting them. Over the next few days, I tried to get it repaired. Every shop I went to gave me the same look, a mix of pity and awkward discomfort, followed by the same verdict. It's totaled. One guy even said, "This looks like it got hit by a car." I almost laughed. When I told Lucas, he didn't say anything. He just nodded, then went to his room and shut the door. That's when the anger started to fester. But I didn't say anything to Kyle. Or my mom. Not yet. Because I wanted to believe this was a one-time thing. A bad day. A mistake. Families are messy, right? We're supposed to forgive. That's what my mom always says. Then came the 4th of July. Every year, it's a big deal in our family. Backyard fireworks, hot dogs, music, the whole cliché. This year, it was at Kyle's house. I wasn't going to go. Honestly, I'd already made up my mind to cut back on how often I saw them. But then Lucas came to me the night before, holding a crudely wrapped present with blue star-patterned paper. "I want to give this to Grandpa," he said quietly. "My dad passed away 5 years ago." Lucas barely remembers him, but he still calls him Grandpa when he talks about the little things, like how he'd whistle when he worked in the garage, or how he always carried peppermints in his coat pocket. Lucas made a wooden key holder in art class with Grandpa's tools carved into the front. He wanted to leave it in Grandpa's old shed at Kyle's house, where Dad used to fix lawnmowers and old bikes before his health gave out. I caved. We went. It started fine. The food was good, the weather was warm, Lucas was playing catch with some of the other kids, and I tried to just exist without tension. But it didn't last. About an hour in, Dana approached me with that tight smile of hers and said, "Hey, so the boys are asking if Lucas brought his new bike. They want another go at it." I froze. I couldn't tell if it was a joke or a threat. I forced a laugh. "Well, he didn't. And after last time, I think it's best we just leave it." "Oh, sure," she said quickly, holding her hands up. "Of course. It's just, they're still talking about it, you know? They're boys." It was exciting. Yeah, exciting. Lucas came over around then, holding the wrapped gift. He looked nervous. "Can I put it in the shed now?" I walked with him. The shed was old and dusty, full of spider webs and tools rusted with time. But Lucas walked in like it was sacred ground. He placed the gift on a small shelf, right next to Grandpa's old coffee mug, still there after all these years, and whispered, "Happy 4th, Grandpa." I swallowed the lump in my throat. We stayed in the shed a little longer, just to breathe in the quiet. When we came back out, the twins were holding water balloons, one in each hand. Before I could say anything, Tyler launched one right at Lucas's chest. It hit him square and cold, soaking his shirt. The second followed a second later, splashing across his face. Lucas gasped, more from shock than pain. "Hey," I snapped, stepping between them. "They're just water balloons," Kyle called from the porch, beer in hand again. "You threw it right at his face?" I shot back. Jack shrugged. He looked hot. Lucas was shivering, his lips pressed into a tight line. I handed him my hoodie and led him inside to dry off. I found Dana in the kitchen. "Your boys soaked my son," I said flatly. "They're just playing," she said with a sigh. "Maybe he should learn to play back. He's not a punching bag." She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. "I'll talk to them." She didn't. We left early. That night, Lucas didn't say much at all, just curled up with a book and stayed in bed. I stood in the hallway and stared at the door, clenching and unclenching my fists, wondering how many times you can excuse cruelty as just boys being boys before it becomes something darker. 2 weeks later, the betrayal happened. Lucas had been working on something for weeks. He'd saved up his allowance, sold a few old toys online, and asked me to match what he earned so he could buy a Lego robotics set. Not a cheap one either. This was one of those high-end kits with coding and sensors and all that STEM magic. I was proud of him. He planned to build a robot arm and show it off at his school's science fair. He finally got it delivered on a Friday afternoon. I let him open it in the living room, and he was glowing, laughing, inspecting every piece like it was treasure. He didn't even finish dinner that night. Just kept tinkering with the set, carefully organizing everything by color and function. He even labeled the compartments in the storage box. The next day, I had to run a quick errand, so I left Lucas home with my mom, who had come over to visit and insisted she'd keep him company. I was gone maybe 2 hours. When I got back, the house was too quiet. "Lucas," I called. Silence. Then I saw him. In his room, sitting on the floor. The robot kit was spilled around him like wreckage from a plane crash. Wires tangled, pieces snapped, sensors ripped from their sockets. His hands were in his lap, palms open, just staring. "What happened?" I asked, heart climbing into my throat. He looked up slowly. His voice was small. "They took it." I blinked. "Who?" "Tyler and Jack," he whispered. "Grandma let them in." I stormed into the living room. "Mom!" She looked up from the couch like I'd startled her awake. "What's the matter? You let Kyle's boys in here?" "Well, yes. They were in the neighborhood. Kyle said they could stop by." I stared at her, stunned. "Without me here?" "Without asking." She waved her hand dismissively. "They're family. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. They destroyed his robotics kit." She frowned. "It's just some toys. I'm sure Lucas can build it again." No, he can't. Half the parts are snapped in half. And even if he could, he spent weeks saving up for it. Do you know how hard he worked?" "Don't talk to me like I'm some stranger, Adrian," she said sharply. "They're children. You should stop treating them like criminals." I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and make her understand. But I didn't. Instead, I turned and walked back to Lucas's room. He looked up at me like he wanted me to fix it, like dads are supposed to. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I couldn't. I couldn't fix it this time. Not with glue. Not with money. Not with any speech or lesson or punishment. But I could do something else. And that's when the plan started to take shape. Slow. Careful. Calculated. I didn't tell Lucas. Not yet. He needed time to heal. But I made phone calls. I dug through old records. I checked dates. I reviewed legal documents that had gathered dust for years. And 2 weeks later, I asked Kyle and my mom to meet me at the house. I said I wanted to clear the air. They came, thinking I was going to apologize. They had no idea what was coming. There's a specific kind of silence that lives in a house after a child's heart breaks. It isn't loud or even obvious, but it lingers. In the way footsteps echo across rooms that used to be full of laughter. In how the TV stays off even during dinner. In how the air feels heavy, like everyone's holding their breath, afraid to say the wrong thing. That was our house for weeks after the robotics kit. Lucas didn't cry much. He didn't yell. He just got quieter. He still went to school, still brushed his teeth and made his bed, still said good night before bed. But his light dimmed. The boy who used to hum while sorting his Legos now walked past them without looking. The kid who once gave me 30-minute lectures on which gear ratios were best for mountain bikes now stared at his cereal like it offended him. And me? I was stuck in this awful place between rage and helplessness. Every time I saw Lucas's slumped shoulders, I felt like a failure. Not because I didn't buy him something new, but because I let them in. I let my mom dismiss his pain again. I let Kyle's boys take one more thing from him. And worst of all, I hadn't protected him from the people who were supposed to love him. The week after the robotics kit incident, I didn't hear from my mom. Not a call. Not a text. She didn't ask how Lucas was. She didn't offer to replace anything. She didn't even say sorry. Kyle, of course, doubled down. "You've always been soft," he said on the phone when I confronted him. "Maybe if you didn't raise Lucas like he was made of glass, he wouldn't fall apart every time a toy breaks." That was the last straw. I hung up without a word. For the first time in my adult life, I started to cut them off. Not just in theory, not just emotionally. Actually, I didn't show up to Sunday dinners. I ignored group messages. I didn't return calls. I even blocked Kyle for a while, just so I could breathe. Lucas and I started spending weekends differently. No more family cookouts. No more visits to grandma's. Instead, we went to the science center, or built paper rockets in the backyard, or played card games at the coffee table with popcorn and juice boxes. And slowly, very slowly, that silence in the house started to loosen its grip. Then, one morning, I saw Lucas sitting at the dining table with a small notebook. He was sketching something. I didn't say anything at first. I didn't want to break the spell. But after a few minutes, I asked, "What are you working on?" He held it up shyly. A design for a robotic claw. In pencil. With labels and arrows. "I want to try again," he said. "But this time I want to build something strong. Something they can't break." I swear to you, I almost cried right there. That day, we started over. I told him I couldn't replace the whole kit, but I could help him piece something together from parts. We started scouring eBay, used tech forums, even a few garage sales. Lucas was cautious. He didn't want me spending too much. But we made it a project. Together. Every Saturday, we'd add a piece or two. A servo here. A microcontroller there. Bit by bit, he rebuilt something new. And it wasn't just a machine this time. He was rebuilding himself. At night, after he went to bed, I'd research robotics online. Not just for him, for me too. I didn't want to just be the guy holding the flashlight anymore. I wanted to understand what made him light up. I learned about Arduino boards, coding platforms, wiring patterns, even basic Python. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to meet him where he was. And you know what happened? People noticed. His science teacher sent home a note. "Lucas is showing incredible focus. He's way ahead of the curriculum." His principal pulled me aside one morning and said, "We'd like to recommend Lucas for a local robotics mentorship program. He's got real talent." He wasn't just bouncing back, he was thriving. Meanwhile, my mom's silence cracked one day when I got a letter in the mail. Yes, a letter. I opened it in the kitchen while Lucas was working on a code for a proximity sensor. The letter was short, just a few lines written in her soft cursive. "Adrian, I'm sorry if I hurt you. I didn't mean for things to get so bad. The family isn't the same without you. Please come by next week. Love, Mom." There was no mention of Lucas. No mention of what happened. Just vague sadness. Like a note someone leaves in a guest book. I didn't respond, but I didn't throw it away either. A week later, I got a text from Dana. Just one sentence. "Are you coming to Kyle's birthday?" I stared at it for a long time. Here's the thing about family, especially toxic family. They expect you to come back. They expect your silence to be temporary. That's part of the dance. They hurt you. You go quiet. They let time smooth over the details. And then, boom, you're at the next cookout like nothing happened. Rinse and repeat. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. Still, I needed something. Closure? Maybe. A confrontation? Probably. Or maybe I just needed them to see. So I sent a message. "I'll come. I want to talk." The birthday was at Kyle's house. Of course it was. Dana probably decorated the entire place with football-themed balloons and beer-branded banners. I wasn't planning to stay long. I told Lucas he didn't have to come, and he didn't hesitate. He wanted to keep working on the robot. I think he sensed I needed to do this alone. I arrived around 5. The usual crowd was there. My aunt with her baked ziti, my cousin Derek glued to his phone, Kyle in his usual king of the backyard stance near the grill. When he saw me, his eyebrows shot up. "Well, look who decided to show up," he said, arms wide like he was doing me a favor. I gave him a tight nod. "I just came to talk." Mom spotted me and rushed over with a glass of lemonade. She looked thinner than I remembered, but maybe that was just the guilt finally weighing her down. "Adrian, I'm so glad you're here," she said, touching my arm. I didn't return the hug. "Can we sit?" We went inside. away from the party noise. I didn't waste time. I'm not here to make peace, I said, my voice steady. I'm here to explain something. Kyle snorted. This should be good. I turned to my mom. You let them destroy something Lucas worked his heart out for. Twice. And both times, you defended them. You called him dramatic. You said boys will be boys. But what you really meant was Kyle's boys will be boys. She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. I get it. Kyle's always been the golden child. You've made excuses for him since we were kids. But this, what happened to Lucas, this wasn't sibling rivalry. This was cruelty. Repeated cruelty. And you stood there and let it happen. Mom looked down at her lap. Kyle rolled his eyes. Adrian, come on. You're acting like my kids are criminals. They're just. No, I said, turning to him. They're not criminals. Yet. But if they keep learning that they can smash, insult, and take whatever they want without consequences, guess what? They'll grow into men just like you. That shut him up. I stood. I'm done trying to be the peacemaker. I'm done letting my son think this is what family is supposed to feel like. From now on, Lucas comes first. And if that means cutting ties, then so be it. My mom's eyes welled up. But still, no apology. Not really. Just pain. And regret. I walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. I'm filing a police report for the damage to Lucas's robotics kit. It was over $300 worth of equipment. Since it happened while you were supervising, Mom, you'll be listed on the statement. Her mouth fell open. Kyle laughed. You're kidding. I looked at him. I'm really not. Then I left. I didn't look back. That was the moment everything changed. But the fallout? That came later. And trust me, it was glorious. Sometimes when you finally stop playing the game, you realize just how rigged the board always was. After that final conversation at Kyle's house, things didn't explode right away. No shouting matches. No Facebook status wars. No angry voicemails. Just silence. A different kind this time. One that felt more like a standoff than a wound. Kyle didn't call. My mom didn't write. And I didn't care. For once, I wasn't waiting around for them to come to their senses. I was too busy building something better. Lucas and I had found our rhythm again. Weekends became creative labs. Evenings were filled with quiet humming of tiny motors and the sound of keys tapping as he learned to code basic movement loops. The claw he designed was now a full arm. It could wave, lift objects, even fist bump, which he found hilarious. He called it Project Atlas. I told him it sounded like something a superhero would invent. And in a way it was. Not because it could save the world, but because it had saved him. And me? I quietly started something else in the background. Let me explain. After I filed that police report about the robotics kit, I didn't expect much. Not really. I knew it wouldn't go far. Kyle's boys were underage. My mom didn't exactly have a criminal record, and I wasn't pushing for charges. But I wanted it documented. Because that's the thing people forget. When your family gaslights you, a paper trail is power. The responding officer, Officer Garcia, was surprisingly kind. He took the report seriously, asked the right questions, even looked a little disgusted when I showed him the photos of the destroyed pieces. This wasn't an accident, he said, flipping through the photos. They pried this part open. That's not just roughhousing. I nodded. They've done this before. With his bike. He tilted his head. Same kids. Same kids. Same excuses. He closed the folder. I'll file this. Might not go anywhere now. But if it happens again, you'll have a record. That helps. I thanked him and left. But something about that conversation stuck with me. Might not go anywhere now. What if I didn't wait for it to happen again? What if instead of hoping karma showed up someday, I invited it over? That's when the idea started to take shape. See, I'm not the revenge type. Not in the dramatic, movie-style way. I'm not going to slash Kyle's tires or dump paint on his porch. That's kid stuff. That's temporary. I wanted something quieter. Deeper. I wanted him to feel what it was like to lose something precious. Not just physically, but socially. Reputationally. Emotionally. And I had the perfect starting point. His job. Kyle's a high school football coach. Has been for almost 12 years. That school? It's his kingdom. He walks those hallways like he owns them. His players worship him. The parents praise him. And the school board? They love his record. 2 state championships, 3 regional titles, and 1 incident in 2017 that got buried because boys will be boys. That incident? I never forgot it. Because I was the one who helped him bury it. A few years back, one of Kyle's star players got into a fight at a party. Broke a kid's nose. The cops got involved, but Kyle convinced the victim's parents not to press charges, and I, stupidly, helped draft the apology letter that smoothed it over. Back then, I thought I was helping him protect a kid's future. Now I see it for what it was, a pattern. Kyle doesn't believe in consequences. He believes in cover-ups. So I started digging, not just into that old incident, but everything. I requested public records from the school board. I went through local news archives. I talked, quietly, with a couple of teachers I still knew from when Lucas did summer enrichment programs. And what I found was gold. Turns out, Kyle's been playing fast and loose with ethics for years. Missing equipment funds. Booster club donations that don't match up with event records. Volunteer, hours logged under his kids' names for extra credit. Oh, and the real kicker? He used the school's district discount to purchase private sports equipment for his own sons. Stuff that never showed up in any team inventory lists. I compiled everything. Dates, documents, screenshots. I created a Google Drive folder with organized tabs. Labeled it Kyle Audit. But I wasn't done. Because if there's one thing toxic families hate more than being caught, it's being exposed by one of their own. So I turned to someone who hates Kyle just as much as I do. My cousin Jeremy. Jeremy's kind of the black sheep. Tech guy, moved out of state a while back, super into data privacy and whistleblower laws. Kyle always mocked him growing up, called him Silicon Weirdo and the Password Prince. But Jeremy? He never forgot that. We hadn't talked in a while, but when I sent him a message with just 4 words, "I need your help," he responded in less than 5 minutes. A week later, we were on Zoom. I showed him everything. He laughed. Actually laughed when I told him Kyle had been misusing school funds. "This is so illegal," he said, eyes wide. "Like, state auditor illegal." "That's what I was hoping," I said. Jeremy didn't just help. He went all in. He set up anonymous drop boxes for me to submit documents. He walked me through how to request financial records from the Booster Club without raising flags. He even scrubbed metadata from my files so nothing could be traced back directly. Then came the final piece, timing. I didn't want to drop the hammer immediately. I wanted to watch it build, like a storm on the horizon. Kyle's birthday had been the fracture. Now I needed the pressure to mount. And lucky for me, fate delivered. Our old high school, the one Kyle works at, was gearing up for a major expansion. The district had just approved a bond to renovate the gym and athletic fields. Big money, big oversight. And Kyle? He was trying to get himself promoted to athletic director so he could oversee the whole budget. That's when I knew. This was it. If I dropped the right information at the right time, not only would he lose the promotion, he might lose his job. Maybe more. But I wasn't just doing this for revenge. Not anymore. I was doing it because Lucas deserved better family than this. Because how many kids had Kyle already hurt with his unchecked ego? How many more would he silence or dismiss, just like he did to my son? It was time to pull the trigger. But first, I made one final visit. To my mom. She looked surprised when I knocked. Surprised and weirdly hopeful. "I thought you weren't speaking to me," she said. "I wasn't. I'm not here for tea." She stepped aside. "Okay." I walked in, looked around the living room. The same photos on the wall. Same old blanket on the couch. But it all felt smaller now. Like I'd finally outgrown it. "I'm going to tell you something," I said. "And you're not going to like it." She crossed her arms. "Adrian, if this is about..." "I've been documenting what Kyle's been doing," I cut in. "At work. With the school's money. With his team. I have proof." She paled. "You can't. He's your brother." "No," I said. "He's your favorite." "That's not the same thing." She sank into a chair. "Adrian, think about the family. Think about the consequences." I am. I leaned forward. "Lucas is the family I'm thinking about. And I'm done teaching him that silence is love. Or that loyalty means letting people hurt you over and over again." She didn't say anything. She just looked at me, stunned. I got up. "Oh," I added, just before leaving, "you might want to talk to a lawyer. If any of those misused funds trace back to events you signed off on for the PDA, the district might come knocking." The color drained from her face. I walked out. That was 3 days ago. Tomorrow, everything goes live. The files, the reports, the whistleblower emails, the letter to the superintendent, signed anonymously, but crafted so carefully, so specifically, that no one will have to wonder who pulled the thread. Only how far it will unravel. Kyle's about to find out what it feels like when your world starts cracking under your feet. And me? I'm just getting started. I sent the email at 7:52 a.m. on a Wednesday. Nothing flashy. No dramatic countdown. Just a clean message, sent through a burner address routed through 3 encrypted relays, dropped quietly into the inboxes of the school superintendent, the local board of education, the booster club treasurer, and, for good measure, a reporter I'd once met at a town hall meeting who had a nose for local corruption and an axe to grind. Subject line, urgent, financial irregularities in athletic department, documentation attached. The attachments? 32 files, each named and organized. A full audit trail, screenshots of Kyle's equipment orders with mismatched delivery records, PDA sign-off sheets signed by my mother for events that never occurred, bank statements, and a detailed timeline of booster fund misappropriation. I even included video stills from a school board livestream where Kyle bragged about cutting costs while charging personal items to the school. By 10:04 a.m., my phone buzzed. Not from the recipients. I'd blocked responses to the burner account. It was Jeremy. Bro, it's happening. Your file is being forwarded around the entire board. Just saw it on the back end. It's spreading like wildfire. By 11:22 a.m., I got a text from my cousin Derek. Dude, what did you do? Kyle just got pulled out of a staff meeting. Whole thing was live on the school's internal Zoom. Principal looked pissed. And by 3:37 p.m., the local news had it. The headline: Breaking, allegations surface of financial misconduct in district athletic department. I watched it unfold in real time. The article didn't name Kyle yet, but it didn't have to. Longtime head coach under investigation. Anonymous whistleblower provides evidence of equipment fraud. Audit committee convened. It was him. Kyle tried to get ahead of it. I know because Dana posted a long-winded Facebook status that same night about jealous people with vendettas and how Kyle poured his soul into those kids and deserved better than this witch hunt. The comments started off supportive, but then someone replied with a screenshot of the news article. Then another posted a link to a public court database. Apparently, Kyle had been sued in small claims court back in 2020 by a former assistant coach for unpaid dues and unauthorized charges. Someone else, probably a parent from the team, posted photos of Kyle's twins wearing gear identical to the missing school equipment inventory. The tide turned. Fast. By the next morning, the school district released an official statement. Pending the outcome of the investigation, Coach K, last name withheld here, has been placed on administrative leave. We take financial misconduct seriously and are working with authorities to review all claims. That wasn't just a slap on the wrist. That was the beginning of the end. You know what people forget? How fast reputations unravel once they're exposed to daylight. The school board isn't loyal, they're strategic. Kyle wasn't their golden boy anymore. He was a liability. Within a week, the athletic director position was quietly pulled from consideration. The renovation project was placed under internal review, and Kyle's coaching duties were reassigned temporarily to his assistant coach. The truth? It was over. He just didn't know how much yet. The fallout wasn't just professional. At home, things crumbled faster than I expected. Dana tried to keep up appearances for a while, posting filtered family photos, pretending everything was fine. But the cracks showed. Kyle was angry, bitter, lashing out at everyone. Lucas heard from one of his friends at school that Kyle's twins had started getting picked on. Nicknames like Coach Crook and Tyler the Thief had started making rounds. I didn't celebrate that part. I didn't want the kids hurt. But it wasn't my job to shield them from the consequences their parents refused to teach them. That had always been the problem. And my mom, that's where it stung the most. About a week after the story broke, she showed up at my door unannounced. She looked older. Not in the tired way, in the defeated way. Shoulders hunched, skin pale, eyes dull like a cloudy sky. She held a box in her arms. I opened the door. Said nothing. She stepped inside and placed the box on the table. I came to return these, she said quietly. They were in the shed. I kept meaning to give them back to Lucas. I opened the box. Inside were pieces of the original destroyed robotics kit. Bits of plastic, scorched wires, a few instruction booklets. It looked like the wreckage of a forgotten dream. I closed the lid. She sat down across from me. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't realize how bad it had gotten. I didn't answer. She tried again. I always thought if I kept the peace, everything would stay okay. I looked at her. It didn't. She nodded. Her eyes brimmed, but she didn't let the tears fall. I know I failed him. And I failed you. Still, I said nothing. I let the silence say it for me. After a long pause, she stood to leave. At the door, she hesitated. You did what I couldn't. You protected your son. I didn't hug her. I didn't invite her to dinner. But I didn't slam the door, either. That was our version of progress. Lucas never asked what happened to Kyle. He didn't need to. He was too busy thriving. That same week, he presented his finished robotic arm at the regional science fair. The one I'd helped him build piece by piece from scraps and salvage parts. It worked like a charm. The judges were impressed not just by the engineering, but the resilience of the story behind it. Lucas didn't win first place. He won a mentorship. A local engineer, one of the judges, offered to take him on as a mentee in a junior robotics program. Lucas beamed all the way home. When I asked how he felt, he just said, I guess Project Atlas worked after all. Yeah, it really did. The official audit report came out 2 months later. The findings were damning. Misuse of funds, falsified records, unreported gifts. Kyle was fired. Not just suspended. Fired. Without severance. His teaching license was flagged. The state opened a secondary investigation into possible fraud charges. I don't know where he's working now. Probably not in a school. Dana filed for separation shortly after. The house went up for sale not long after that. The last time I saw Kyle was at the grocery store. He was pushing a cart, looking smaller than I remembered, like all that arrogance had finally deflated. He saw me. We locked eyes for a moment. He didn't say a word. Neither did I, but he looked away first. A few weeks ago, Lucas and I took a bike ride. A long one. He was on his bike, a new one, bought with part of my bonus from a freelance project I took on after cutting ties with the family. It wasn't flashy, but it was his. He rode in front of me, the wind in his hair, laughter echoing down the trail. At one point, he stopped and looked back at me. Race you to the top. I grinned. You're on. We pedaled hard, side by side, the sun dipping low behind us. And for a moment, just a fleeting second, I realized something. The revenge hadn't just been about making them pay. It was about reclaiming peace. Reclaiming us. At the top of the hill, Lucas raised his arms in triumph. I caught up, breathless but smiling. He looked at me, grinning. Did we win? I looked out at the sunset. Yeah, buddy, I said. We did.